I want to show you something the Dubai government does not want you to see. Not a classified document, not a leaked file, nothing dramatic like that. Just a restaurant. It is called Nobu. If you know anything about luxury dining, you know that name, one of the most recognized fine dining brands on earth. Its Dubai location opened in 2013, and for over a decade, you could not get a table unless you knew someone. Celebrities, billionaires, Saudi royalty. The reservation list read like a Forbes ranking. In April 2026, Nobu Dubai closed. Not temporarily, not for renovation. Closed. Now, if that were the only thing, you could explain it away. Restaurants close, even good ones. But Nobu was not the only thing. The Bulgari resort on Jumeirah Bay Island, where a two-night stay costs more than most people make in a month, suspended new bookings. The Jumeirah Group quietly announced that it was deferring 3 planned expansion projects. The Dubai International Academy, one of the most prestigious international schools in the Emirate, $20,000 per term, 5-year waitlist, sent letters home informing parents that class sizes for the next academic year would be restructured due to enrollment changes. None of this made the news. None of it was reported by Bloomberg or CNBC or the Financial Times. And that silence, that deliberate, convenient, commercially motivated silence, is exactly what this video is about. Because Dubai is not just recovering from a crisis. Dubai is dying a particular kind of death, a quiet death, a death happening in the spaces between the headlines. And the reason nobody is talking about it is because too many powerful people have too much financial interest in making sure you don't find out. Before we get into what is actually happening on the ground in Dubai right now, we need to talk about why you haven't heard about it, because that silence is not accidental and it is not neutral. It is the product of one of the most sophisticated and expensive image management operations in the history of any city on earth. The government of Dubai spends more money on international perception management than almost any comparable city-state in the world. Not tourism advertising, narrative control. This includes everything from the obvious: sponsoring major sporting events, buying naming rights on stadiums, funding film productions that portray Dubai favorably, to the much less obvious. It includes the network of financial analysts, real estate commentators, and investment advisors who receive access, data, and benefits from Dubai's government-linked entities, and who, as a result, have a material incentive to maintain positive coverage. It includes the PR firms on retainer in London, New York, and Singapore, whose entire job is to make sure that when journalists write about Dubai, the sources they speak to are the ones with the most positive things to say. And it includes the commercial pressure on financial media organizations. Bloomberg, Reuters, the Financial Times, whose Dubai bureau offices, advertising revenues from Gulf sovereign wealth funds, and access to government sources all depend, to some degree, on not being too aggressive in their negative coverage. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is the ordinary, unremarkable, mundane operation of power and money in the global media ecosystem. It happens with China coverage. It happens with Saudi Arabia coverage. It happens with every major sovereign entity that has the resource to influence how it is portrayed. Dubai is just exceptionally good at it. And right now, in 2026, that machine is working harder than it has ever worked in its history, because the reality on the ground, the real, observable, measurable reality of what Dubai looks like after February 28th and the exodus that followed is so different from the official narrative that the gap between them has become the story itself. People think of a city dying the way they think of a person dying, dramatically, visibly, with a clear moment of before and after. Cities don't die that way. Cities die the way businesses die, the way relationships die, the way any complex system dies. When the thing that held it together quietly stops working, through 1,000 small closures, that each seem explainable in isolation, through vacancy rates ticking upward by 1% a month, until suddenly, the floor plan of a building looks like missing teeth, through school enrollment declining by 30 students per year, until the school can no longer justify its staff ratio, through restaurant bookings slowing by Tuesday, then Monday, then Sunday, until the owner does the math and realizes fixed costs exceed revenue. None of these things make Bloomberg headlines, but each is a data point that, when read together, tells you something the official statistics never will. Let me give you the data points. Dubai Marina, as recently as December 2025, one of the most in-demand residential addresses on Earth, had a residential vacancy rate being privately estimated by local real estate agents at between 18 and 22%. A healthy luxury residential market runs at 3 to 5%. 18 to 22% does not mean the market is cooling. It means the market is in structural distress. The Dubai Mall, the largest mall in the world, the one where New Year's Eve crowds were so dense you could barely move, was reporting a footfall decline of approximately 30% compared to the same period the previous year. The JBR Walk, the outdoor promenade lined with restaurants and cafes that, in peak season, were impossible to walk past without being pulled in by the energy of wealthy people enjoying their lives, had a commercial vacancy rate by April 2026 that multiple sources were estimating over 25%, 1 in 4 units and direct. Paper still on the windows from tenants who had left quickly and landlords who hadn't yet found replacements. And the DIFC, the financial heart of Dubai, the DIFC authority's own occupancy data, which had shown uninterrupted growth for 11 consecutive quarters, showed a decline in Q1 2026 that, by the standards of everything that preceded it, was not a blip, it was a reversal. And the reversal was accelerating. Here is the part of the Dubai story that never, ever gets told when media covers the Dubai exodus. It covers the billionaires, the private jets, the Palm Jumeirah villas going on the market at distressed prices, the hedge fund managers paying $150,000 to charter a flight home. Those stories get clicks. They confirm the comfortable narrative that the Dubai crisis is a story about the rich getting slightly less comfortable. But the Dubai economy is not just the rich. The Dubai economy is, in terms of raw numbers, primarily the hundreds of thousands of people who serve the rich, who cook their food, drive their cars, manage their buildings, clean their apartments, teach their children, staff the spas and gyms and members' clubs and boutiques and restaurants that exist because wealthy people with disposable income want them to exist. Dubai's population is approximately 90% expatriate. Almost all of those expatriates are there because of the economic opportunity created by the wealth concentration the city had built. The driver who worked for a family office in the DIFFC does not have a private jet when his employer relocated to Singapore in March 2026. He sat in his apartment and waited to see if another job would materialize. The Filipino nurse who staffed the private medical clinics serving the marina's wealthy residential community does not have investments in Dubai real estate. When the clinic's patient load dropped 40% because a third of its clientele had departed, and the clinic reduced staff by 30% to cut costs, she lost her job. She has a family in Manila that depends on her remittances. She has no safety net. The Indian construction worker contracted to finish a luxury residential development on the Palm, a development that its developer facing collapsing pre-sales and financing difficulties. Quietly mothballed in April, does not have options. He paid a recruitment agency $3,000 to secure that job. He borrowed money to get here. He was counting on 18 months of work. He now has neither the work nor the money he spent to get here. These people are not in the Bloomberg stories. They do not have PR firms managing their narratives. Their vacancy rates and job losses and financial distress do not show up in the Dubai Financial Market Real Estate Index, but they are the majority of what Dubai actually is, and what is happening to them, quietly, without headlines, without anyone tracking it, is what a city dying from the inside actually looks like. So why isn't this being covered? Not vague gestures at media bias. 5 concrete, structural explanations. Reason 1. Financial media's commercial conflict of interest. Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Financial Times all have significant commercial relationships with Gulf sovereign wealth funds and Dubai government-linked entities. When the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority is both a subject of your coverage and a significant advertiser, you have a structural incentive to be careful. This is not corruption, it is just the ordinary function of commercial media. But the effect is real. Reason 2, the real estate industry's active interest in suppression. Hundreds of billions of dollars in global real estate, well this, exposed to Dubai property. Every major international real estate advisory firm has a Dubai division. Every major private bank has clients with Dubai property on their balance sheets. None of these institutions should any incentive to publicize a story about structural decline. Every one of them has an active financial interest in keeping sentiment positive as long as possible. The research they publish is not independent analysis, it is functionally marketing material. Reason 3. The story is slow and complicated. Vacant apartments and declining school enrollment and closed restaurants do not make good television. They do not compress into a 90-second news segment. Slow, complicated stories about structural economic decline do not compete well for attention. Dramatic departure stories do. The drama has happened. Now comes the slow part. And nobody covers the slow part. Reason 4, nobody wants to be wrong. The analysts, commentators, and journalists who spent 2024 and 2025 writing positively about Dubai, who called it the future of global wealth, who built their professional credibility partly on the Dubai thesis, have a reputational investment in that thesis being correct. Acknowledging it has been severely complicated, requires a kind of intellectual honesty that is genuinely uncommon in public discourse. It is easier to write about Dubai's resilience than to write the piece that says, "We were substantially wrong." Reason 5. Dubai itself is very, very good at this. Never underestimate a well-resourced, sovereign-backed PR operation managing its own decline. Dubai has been managing its international narrative for 20 years. It has the ability to offer access and to make things difficult for journalists who push too hard. In a media environment where access is currency, the ability to grant or withhold it is enormous power. These 5 reasons create a conspiracy. That is not a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and decided not to cover this story. They each, independently, had reasons not to. The result is silence. I want to be precise about the word dying, because I am using it deliberately, and I want to defend it. Dubai is not going to cease to exist. The buildings will not fall down. The airport will still handle millions of passengers. The government has extraordinary resources and the ability to adapt. But a city, at its highest level of function, is not just infrastructure and institutions, it is a network, a living, self-reinforcing, constantly updating network of people and relationships, and capital and ambition. And that network, the specific, extraordinary network that made Dubai the world's greatest wealth magnet in 2025, is ding. The components that made it work are disaggregating. The family offices are relocating. The international schools are losing the student bodies that made them worth attending, the restaurants and members' clubs and cultural institutions that made Dubai a desirable place to live, rather than just a tax-efficient address, are closing, contracting, or quietly repositioning for a smaller, less wealthy, less global clientele. What replaces a dying network is not necessarily nothing, but it is something different, something less. Dubai in late 2026 is in the process of becoming a different kind of city than it was in late 2025, less of a global wealth hub, more of a regional commercial center, less Silicon Valley of the Gulf, more, and this is the comparison that would horrify anyone who has invested their identity in the Dubai dream, more Bahrain. Bahrain is a perfectly functional small country, financial sector, expatriate residents, Stadsgrubrosco, and reasonable governance. Nobody moves there to be at the center of the world's most dynamic concentration of global wealth. Nobody goes to Bahrain because that is where the energy is. That is the trajectory Dubai is now on. Not collapse, not catastrophe. Something more mundane and in many ways more permanent. The slow, quiet, undiscussed transition from extraordinary to ordinary. And the reason nobody is talking about it is because ordinary does not make good content. Ordinary does not sell financial products. Ordinary does not justify the billions of dollars in property that investors around the world are currently carrying on their balance sheets at peak valuations. Ordinary is the story that all the powerful interests in the Dubai ecosystem have spent years and fortunes making sure never gets told. I want to end with something uncomfortable. The silence around Dubai's decline is not just a media failure, it is a financial risk. Right now, hundreds of thousands of people around the world are holding Dubai property, Dubai stocks, Dubai-linked financial products at valuations that assume Dubai is still the city. It was in December 2025 that the network is intact, that the wealth concentration is still there, that school enrollment and restaurant bookings and office occupancy are all still reflecting a city at the peak of its global ambition. They are not. And the gap between what those assets are being valued at and the reality of what the city beneath those assets actually looks like right now, that gap is the risk nobody wants to quantify. Because quantifying it would require telling the story, and telling the story would accelerate the very thing the silence is designed to prevent. I am not telling you Dubai property is going to zero. I am not telling you the city will not recover. I am telling you that the information you need to make an honest assessment of Dubai's trajectory is being withheld from you by commercial media, with financial conflicts of interest, by an industry with hundreds of billions of reasons to keep you optimistic, by a government with extraordinary resources and decades of experience managing its own narrative. The truth is not that Dubai is beyond saving. The truth is that Dubai is in serious, structural, underreported trouble. The truth is that the specific thing that made it extraordinary is dissipating. And the truth is that the silence around that dissipation is itself the story. The people paying the highest price for that silence are not the hedge fund managers on their private jets, on their bite left, they already left. The people paying the highest price are the ones who can't leave: the driver, the nurse, the construction worker, the small business owner who signed a 10-year lease in the marina in 2024, believing the story Dubai was telling about itself. Because nobody told him. The story might not be true. Those are the people nobody is talking about, and this video exists for one reason. Because someone has to. If this made you think about something you weren't thinking about before, subscribe. This channel exists to tell the stories that the powerful would prefer stayed quiet, not the version they want you to hear. The version that is actually true. There is a lot more coming.